This week's episode is brought to you by Humango, Super League Triathlon's official AI coaching partner. Humango is a unique training platform that will improve athletic motivation and performance because it understands how we train and why we train. Hugo, their AI assistant, understands your goals and changing commitments to continuously build an adaptive training plan with regular guidance for athletes of all levels. Hello and welcome to the season wrap edition of the Chute Show. That doesn't mean there isn't going to be more. It's just that there's other triathlon to talk about. We have Wrap Super League Triathlon. Will McCloy here alongside a full complement today. We've got Chris McCormack, who is back. He's back in Australia. He's got the Bahrain hat on because he is the team winner. We've got Tim Don, as always. Annie Emerson has just finished up her shift at the call centre. She has her new microphone on. She looks great as well. If you're listening to this, make sure you go and watch it on YouTube because then you can see Annie's just finished her time working for your local telco. And, of course, from Abu Dhabi, with 3 weeks of acclimatisation ahead of him, is the Super League Triathlon Championship winner for the men's. Hayden Wilde is here as well. How is everyone? Hayden, we'll start with you, mate. How are you going? You're a lot richer now than you were before, so that's good. And you've got a big, fat trophy in your back pocket. You must be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, no, it was a good season, but it was nice to finish it off. It was a pretty long 8 weeks, so of intense racing across the globe, 5 different locations. So I think every athlete was pretty stoked to finish up, but also I think everyone was quite excited of where the series took us and individual performances. And I think you could just see how much Super League took out of people heading into Bermuda. There was some top class athletes that just weren't in the race there that should definitely always be in the race. So it was interesting.
So we take them, then we break them, then we hand them back. And we're like, we don't want these ones anymore.
But we hand them back stronger and richer.
That's right.
Can I just need to say something there. The cheaters actually
here we go.
did brilliantly in Bermuda.
They did.
Because,
you're right. Miriam did really well.
Miriam and Verena really, I think, capitalised on the work, the fitness that they gained. And I think they probably both got their best performances ever in a WTS, finishing in 7th and 8th. So they came from behind, but they had outstanding runs. They really did. And they rode really well.
I can say that I did pick Vincent Louis in the draft. He just didn't happen to race a series and went on to win in Bermuda. So
didn't stop you from playing.
And your point is, Macca?
Yeah, but Annie, don't you think your cheaters left it that they maybe, they saved a little bit. They weren't going full gas for you. You weren't getting it all out of them.
They needed another race. That's what it was. They weren't done.
Hayden, do you want another race? Do you want to make the SLT another race longer?
Maybe they weren't inspired by their manager and they just didn't want to give it for you. They would have done it for Tim, 100%. It's been a while since
I heard
Neom.
Buchek was in Bermuda, wasn't he? Was he there cheering them on?
Managing them. No, he probably was actually. He probably was in Bermuda.
True.
He doesn't have a job, so it's not as if he had a job to go to. Been a while since Neom. That's right. I want to get everyone's thoughts on the event. Neom has obviously been a controversial one in some ways. It's something new for triathlon. But now most of us, Macca wasn't there, but the rest of us have had a personal one-on-one experience with Saudi Arabia. So, Tim, I guess I'll start with you. Was it anything like you expected it to be? Not only the race itself and the race venue, but also the country at large?
Yeah, I mean, I knew there was going to be a lot of sand, and that there definitely was. But yeah, no, you can see it's moving at 1,000 miles a minute. The construction that's going on there, when we go into the compound where the swimming pool and the gym was, you could just see the energy from everyone that's working there of, what they believe in, what Neom could be. And then when we got to the race venue, I must admit, I was going to be like, so what is this going to be like? And you got there and it literally was like an oasis on the Red Sea. I felt like I was going back in my heyday, going into an Olympic venue. There was, it really was. They set it up. The course, Robert and everyone else just did such a great job with the course, and the energy was there. And I think I was really not surprised, but it was everything I hoped it would be and more. I mean, the athlete village was just sensational. It really, really was. They looked after the athletes and treated them, how world class top professionals should be.
Yeah, I went into the Portaloos and I was like, is this marble? Is this Portaloo made of marble? Why does this Portaloo smell
I'm sure
so
that's the only
good?
thing you were talking about. You're like, oh, Hayden, you've got to check out the Portaloos. They actually smell decent.
I was just going to trap you in there. I was like, oh, come into this cubicle. It's awesome. It just reminds, like, when you compare it to the Malibu Portaloos, I think it was chalk and cheese, mate. I gotta say. What about you, Hayden?
It was, yeah,
to come, obviously, you know, you're an Xterra guy. You would have been like, gravel, this is fantastic, but it did feel like we were racing on the surface of Mars. It was something different, and Super League looks to challenge people in all different ways. That's why we have waves and no waves and hilly and twisty and flat and windy and everything. This certainly ticked a few of those boxes.
Yeah, no, I think it was probably the toughest course that Super League has probably produced. Not like I guess, like, you know, it wasn't hilly at all. So the flat power was, you know, it was critical, but it was more so just like the nature of the race, you know, the heavy, strong winds, which was consistently a side wind, which made pretty much like everyone, if you're in the slipstream, you weren't getting too much of an advantage. So you could really see the race like fragment quite significantly, especially in the first round. You know, I was kind of making my way through the group, but I was still pushing some massive watts, and I was in the middle of the group. So it just goes to show that I think the ride was definitely the big part of the race, and you know, I guess the gravel as well was definitely an experience as well. But they made such a good atmosphere out of it, and I think a lot of athletes were quite astounded of, you know, just how good it was. I think a lot of people were going there with an open mind of what would actually look like. So to kind of get there and have a look, it was what they did just in a place of kind of just sand, and yeah, was awesome.
What did it look like on TV, Macca? You watched it, obviously, and you know, it would have been when you flick it on, I guess you don't know what to expect, but you know, they built it out of nothing, and it was a really interesting course and area.
Look, I think as Hayden said, you know, a lot of people have this perception of that region of the world. I remember going to Abu Dhabi, where Hayden is now, and it looked exactly the same as Neom in the 90s. There was nothing there, and I remember the same thing, racing around a circuit in Gantoot, which is now almost downtown Abu Dhabi, and going to Polo Club there, and the same thing. The crosswinds were next level. Like, I mean, the sand coming on, and that back then it was road races. But you know, I knew what we were expecting. I'd been there to do when we signed the deal with Neom, and I thought it looked pretty good. The one realization when you contrasted Toulouse with the big crowds, and then you went back to Neom with their out crowds, you do realize that crowds bring a lot to the event. But I think from an athletic perspective, the Neom race you could definitely see was athletically a lot more difficult than the other courses, and the athletes' faces showed that. Overall, I thought it was a great race, a great way to end the series. I don't know if the after party was fantastic, but it's a great place to end the series.
I tell you what, my jokes don't. They fall a little.
Were good.
Yeah, they fall a little flat. The jokes when everyone's just having mocktails, I have to say, and it doesn't help me. It doesn't help me at all. There's a really interesting, and I want to dig into this a little bit more, Macca, with you, because there's a really interesting article on superleaguetriathlon.com from Michael Dulce, who's the CEO and your business partner, and he's and talking about the controversy about going to Neom, basically. And he says, in life, if you have different positions, you can acknowledge that and work to bring them closer to where you want to be, or you can drive a hard line and continue to isolate, which I don't think will ever improve the situation. We're pushing the boundaries to bring change, and I think that it's a much stronger and more constructive approach than isolating and opposing. And we see that Saudi and Neom are working with us to make that happen on every front. And I have to say, from my perspective, we did a lot with the kids there. We went to school visits. We had kids shadowing. You know, it does make a tangible difference to be there, and what they're doing, you know, past being one thing, they're looking at the future and changing that. And I think that, you know, you've been in those discussions since early on. So, I mean, how do you respond to anyone who's going to take a pot shot from the outside?
Oh, I'm constantly going to have it through Bahrain and obviously through Saudi. You know, like, look, you know, this part of the world is a difficult part of the world. It has been for many, many years. But there's a large proportion of people that live there, and they do want change, and they are bringing massive change. And it's very, very easy to sit there in the comfort of your home in the United States or the UK or wherever you want to be and say, you know, you guys are doing this and that, and you should be ashamed of yourself. But as you saw when you're in Neom, there's thousands of kids that want to be engaged in sport and do it. And, you know, you're in Jeddah and you're seeing getting engaged in running and being active. There's huge communities of people that live there. It's easy just to have a pot shot. I think sport going to this part of the world is fantastic. I know that's a controversial thing to say, but I can only speak highly of my time in the Middle East, and I've been going there since the mid-90s. I've watched that entire part of the world grow up. I saw Dubai grow up. I've seen Bahrain grow up. And now we're seeing Saudi grow up. And it comes with a lot of changes. And when anything moves and changes so quickly, it's very, very difficult. But I'm glad that everybody got to see that. And I'm glad that the athletes got to see it, because it's a beautiful culture, an absolutely incredible culture, an incredible part of the world with rich history. And we often just dismiss that with just, sports washing, whatever you're doing. It's like, come on, please.
And to add to that, I kind of feel really, passionately about it. What Michael said, like, if you don't go, how are you helping, right? I had breakfast with 2 Saudi women that were, played big parts in the organization. And, these keyboard warriors sitting at home going like, God, how could you have gone there and stuff like that? It meant so much to them. And to have women racing, to have the women's field racing there, that wouldn't have even happened 5 years ago. So what are we doing by going there? We're showing, we're encouraging, we're motivating people times to move on. So, but I thought it was absolutely awesome. The racing, the people, as you said, Macca, are some of the most polite, loveliest people in the world. Yeah, shit goes on in that country a lot. So it does in many other countries around the world.
That's one of ours as well.
Yeah, exactly. But how do we help the people of that country if we just block it and we boycott it and we don't go? We say, no, we're not going. I mean, what you guys did in Jeddah with the kids there, Will, was amazing. Just take a look at the photo. You've inspired another generation. You've inspired a generation of women to believe that it's going to be different this time round, that the next generation is going to be different to the one that went before them. So I'm proud of Super League, and I'm proud to have been part of it, and I don't mind saying it. And, those keyboard warriors and some of the stuff that I read, it's like, guys, you weren't even there. You have no idea what we saw.
They've never been there, as they fill their car up with Saudi oil, Saudi fuel.
That's true. I think some of them have never left America. Anyway,
some of
not
them
thinking of anyone in specifically. No one specific. Let's talk about the actual racing. Let's go back to the actual racing. Let's start with the women. Georgia Taylor-Brown had not won a race in Super League in 11 attempts before arriving at this season. She won 3 from 5. It had an air of inevitability around it, even though Taylor Spivey brought it to her. You got to Neom and you thought, Georgia's to lose. And it was in the end. Even your running mate, MG, managed to not give her the short chute. And we were going bonkers in the commentary box, like, how did you not do this? And then she won by about 3 meters. And he was like, see, I'm the smartest man in the room. And to be fair, he had no idea.
He would never say that. No way. He would never say that.
But she was, and you just saw that last shot at the end where Sophie Caldwell, like I said at the end, like she looked like she was about to lay an egg. She was trying so hard, and then Georgia just went past her with that graceful stare that she has, and she just did the job again. And maybe she'll do it again in a few weeks' time in Abu Dhabi. I don't know, but she was great. Sophie Caldwell got herself up onto the podium as well. And because she's British, Annie, I have to get your thoughts first of all, because you're going to have you can do your bias stuff, and then we can talk about it properly.
It's not about being biased, is it? Come on, like
No,
if you watch Sophie Caldwell, in that race, she delivered the most perfect race, the most perfect transitions, the most perfect exits from the water into the water. She just lacked that last little bit in the run. And Michael Tull said that he kind of always thought she was a good athlete. He hadn't realized just how good she'd become. And I think she just looked amazing. And we all know that triathlon is so much more than just a swim, bike, run. You've got to nail. We saw a lot of, and we have seen a lot of cock-ups over the series where people, when they're under serious pressure. But, Sophie Caldwell's performance there was, a 9.9 out of 10. It was just she lacked that last little bit. And Georgia Taylor-Brown, as we know, is probably the best triathlete in the world right now. We'll come on to Flora in a minute, but what she's delivering just time and time again, every race, even when she comes into a race a bit sick, even when she has a crash, somehow or another she manages to recover from it.
What do you think, Haydos? Obviously, she joins you at the top of the standings. And what's your take on Georgia as an athlete? She's still got so much more to give. She just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, no, she was an absolute class over the whole 5 series, even coming down in a crash and then kind of getting back up into like top contingent in Malibu was impressive. Was extremely impressive, to be honest. Yeah, she's just been so dominant this year, and it was, you kind of just look at, when the men come down and come watch the race, it's like even I would kind of, if I was racing in the females category, I'd have no clue how to beat her, because she's pretty much just like dominant over all three. Like, she's got the swim. She could probably lead the swim if she wants to, but she's smart enough not to, and saving that energy.
Just like you.
She can ride any. Yeah, like,
Clever.
I need it. I let Jamie have those points, baby. And then,
He's a kind fella.
And then, she's as strong as an ox on the bike. Incredible flat power, but also extremely dominant on the hills. And then she just runs away with a beautiful stride. So, it was really cool to also see, Taylor Spivey battle it up front and give her a run for her money too. She was extremely impressive over the five races, and to see Sophie kind of get up as well, that was really nice. And I have to say, the Brits and Neom were definitely extremely dominant, especially the cheaters side. I have to say, Annie. Sophie was just on the front the whole time.
If you want to come back on the show, you
Johnny
can't
as
do
well,
that. You can't do that if you want to come back. We've got to kind of keep her down. But yeah, let's touch on Taylor, because I think she surprised herself. I think she was a surprise packet for us in terms of the performances, but she seemed surprised too, Tim, just to keep doing the job and keep turning up. Got the win obviously in Malibu, which meant a lot to her, and obviously it was a really good decision for you to trade her in at the start of the season for none.
I knew that was going to come up. Blooming knew it. Listen, you know what? I do not think she was surprised with herself. I think after that first race in London, she's such a confident young lady that she was like, this is where I belong. And she was racing to win. She wasn't racing. You get those athletes, those generation athletes, and it's like, we can't beat them. Let's race for second. She was doing everything possible. She was making no mistakes. Similar to Hayden, their consistency. I'm not saying the swim, bike, run, that's always there, but just the small differences. She was the only one that bought an ice vest to the final so she could wear it. I think maybe others did, but what I could saw, she was turning up as a consummate professional, and I think she was just backing herself. So yeah, the first race would have surprised her, but then I think she would have gone back to her training group. She trains with Miriam quite a lot, and I think they're quite good friends, and you could just see in between the races through all their posts, there was a movement there of, we can maybe beat George Taylor Brown. Someone's got to. Why not us? And no. So I maybe she should have been an Eagle.
Finally, he admits it. 8.5 weeks later. But Macca, you'd obviously be stoked with your performances from your Scorpion women, obviously with Georgia and Cassandra Beaugrand picking up probably like 80% of your points over the course of the season. You really picked that incredibly well. Congratulations to you. Oh, yeah, and Kathy, of course. Did well. Yeah, and Emma, and I think Emma Jeffcoat did extremely well.
Yeah, Emma was one of our biggest scorers. I'm having lunch with Emma tomorrow. So I think the women, the team did amazing, but they were definitely carried by our women. They were remarkable, and obviously Georgia off the front. Cassandra was up and down after that crash in Munich, but she had that strong performance in London, lost that confidence. But to become a team player like she was, she took instructions well. She went after points when it was needed, and that takes a lot of character as an athlete to do that. And that was what was great about the team competition. She was a big scorer of team points for us. She won the swimming jersey, the swimming points week in, week out for us every time she competed. She won all the running points along with. So I think, we were stoked to win. It was super tight, right? It was ridiculously like we were on edge. Yeah, 2 points. Like we were on edge. We wanted to win that thing. It was definitely a focus at the start of the year, and we thought we were shortchanged when we lost Vincent, and we're like, oh man, and then we got stuck with
Ryan Fisher. Oh, come on, man!
I love Fish. Fish. I tell you what, Fish.
That is
Fish brought maturity. He brought a maturity to the team. He was the glue of that entire team.
I agree.
He was such a good teammate. Like honestly, that's what this team dynamic brings. But we got stuck with bloody Cam Worth.
That's what you're going to say.
Oh, harsh. That's so harsh.
I love Cam. And I've been texting with Cam, but I was like, anywhere that we lost an athlete, we got into those, what are they called, bloody draft trade things. And I wake up, I'm like, wildcards. I'm like, seriously? Like, I'd rather go.
Yeah,
We had 3 women in the final. 3 women in the final.
We only have, well, when you get Cam, and I mean it with the utmost respect, Cam, if you're listening.
It's too late, mate.
You get Cam in a short course race, it's like, dude, we are starting with 3.
It's too late.
You could have stepped up.
Yeah.
I was messaging Cam, and I was like, "Oh, rumor has it you're racing." He was like, "Yeah, mate. I hope I'm not in your team because you'll just be racing with 3 guys."
Lord bless him.
But again, I will say, and this is what was great about Super League and the whole team there, Cam was an incredible teammate, and coming out of a team race and sitting down at the team meetings when we're in Malibu, and just that dynamic he brought, and that selflessness that he brought to the team was amazing. And just he stayed around for the race, supported the team, understood the points, engaged with the management conversations with the team about tactics and everything, what he believed should happen. He was a great teammate. So I'm only
and it goes to show the level that the athletes are racing at. That someone who can race in a Grand Tour, he can race Paris-Roubaix, and he turns up to a race like that, and similar. I'm not saying he's getting schooled, but he's not getting the quickest bike times. He's not just jumping up. I think that the level now that we're seeing from the men and women in Super League is really raising the bar across all sports. And Cam would definitely, sure, he'll probably come back and want to race with you guys again, but he'll be under no illusion. I'm not just going to jump in, here. And we saw, as you said, there were dominant performances in Bermuda this weekend from Kathia Shah, top 20. That is 100% due to how many transitions has she practiced over the last 8 weeks. How many times has she gone in that hurt locker? Munich, her shoe fell off and she rode with 1 foot on her pedal, and she still never gave up. That is setting them up, these younger athletes, to hopefully it's a really successful career. But I'm glad Cam was on your team.
Well, I do remember Cam Worth saying to me the first day he turned up in Malibu, he's like, "Now, can I run with my running shoes across the mountain line?" And I was like, "Mate, don't worry, you're not going to get eliminated probably." He's like, no, to get the short chute. And I went, "That's not going to be a problem." I was like, no.
Man's been swimming.
Yeah, he thought he was going to be biking hard enough to be able to pass the entire field on that course and take the short chute. It didn't turn out that way for the big fella, but at least he was. But to be fair, and to be absolutely fair to Ryan Fisher, after he hadn't finished a race in 4 races, if he hadn't finished 11th, you guys wouldn't have won that money. He put in for his very last race. He dug as deep as he possibly could, and he got you guys over the line, as did Tyler Mislachuk, as did the rest of the men's side as well, who had been much maligned over the previous 7 weeks, especially by MG. Maybe that's why Cassandra was doing what she was told, because she had MG like this far from her face every time she came into transition, yelling at her what to do next. She's like, okay, yes, whatever you say, the big fella. And fair enough. And I guess, it was funny how she didn't attack the bike anymore. She had her troubles with the bike in Munich, and she had it in Neom as well. And the other person I want to point out is where do we think Beth Potter fell at the end of all of this? Because she didn't do too badly. She was there or thereabouts, but maybe she didn't deliver the same way we thought she would. Is there anyone, like maybe it's Potter or maybe it's someone else who you thought maybe disappointed? And then equally, who do you reckon out of the rookies was the person that really stood up? Annie, I'll start with you.
I don't think Beth was. I mean, she's so competitive. She's so driven, but at the same time, she sort of comes to races like really managing her expectations. And I think she was really glad to finish 3rd in Neom. And when I interviewed her at the end of the race, I said, "Are you disappointed to fall off the overall series?" And she kind of said no. Whether that was truth or not, I don't know. I think she's still an athlete that is building her experience. I mean, I think, she's been in triathlon a fair while now, but let's not forget, she's not like some of these athletes that literally have been in it since, day one. She started out as a runner, and she's only been racing in triathlon, probably 4 or 5 years, Tim? Is it
2017
like
she came over, I think.
Yeah.
2016 she went to the Olympics for track and field. That's a
Yeah,
massive
exactly.
change.
Yeah.
So I think she's kind of okay with what she's doing. And we'll talk about Bermuda in a minute. But of course, she finished third there yesterday, which was an outstanding result. And her swim's getting more and more comfortable. She is an athlete that comes into races with a huge amount of anxiety. And I don't think she'd disagree with that. She's always a bit worried that she's a bit sick or something's gone wrong or it's a bit cold or it's a bit hot. But I think as her confidence grows, she's just going to get better and better.
I often put off work because of those same reasons. I'm like, no, can't do the podcast. It's too cold.
You're a bit of a softie, though. I mean, come on. We know what you like.
What about rookies? What about the rookie that stood up? Because I got a few nominations. All right, so in the women's, like Miriam Garcia, Verena Steinhauser, Jean Lahair, Kathy Ashar. I mean, who was the one you go, she's Super League material from now on? Tim, what do you reckon?
I mean, you've got to go
any of the above.
Kathy Ashar. Yeah, I mean, you literally, but Kathy is so young. I mean, while the other athletes are more experienced, they've almost found, Miriam and the two cheaters have found like a second wind in their career. But definitely Kathy, I mean, she is so young, and you can see that she's doesn't have that air and confidence about her, which she should now. I mean, top 20 in the WTS, being an impact player in virtually every Super League race there is. I would definitely say her. But then I still have this vision of Lahair on the beach running to get that swim cream. Just how she attacked the races with like flair and Frenchness. She reminds me of some of the old French, Stéphane Poulet and Benjamin Sampson. She's just like, a minute, I will race fast. And she just gives it 100%. So yeah, there's so many athletes that really stepped up and improved. Just like when she went to Ed Sheeran the night before the Munich race. She bought the ticket on the wrong day, and then she was going to go the night before. She's like, well, I have the ticket now, I have to go. And then she got home at like 1 a.m. I was like, how did you get home? She's like, I ran home. I'm like, oh, you ran home? She says, I ran home, I could not get a cab, so I just ran. It was like 6 hours before, and then she finished third.
Yeah,
third or fourth. Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, madness. What about you, Macca? Who's your pick? Who's your pick?
I'm with Tim. I think for me, it was Kathir the whole way. I was a bit apprehensive. I didn't know her at all going into Super League. And I think we saw that in the draft pick when I think she might have been one of the last two selected. And she came on, but she was such a buzz, such a really, you could just see the youth in her, but her willingness to learn. And, she surrounded herself on that team with, you had Cassandra Beaugrand and Georgia Taylor-Brown, like two of the best in the business. And she stuck to them. And Emma Jeffcoat really took her wings and sort of said, okay. And she really grew. And I just think, I think the sky's the limit for her. She's got I saw her go from round to round, building confidence, enjoying the racing from apprehension and nervousness in London to absolutely loving what she was doing, loving the circuit and feeling like a real team player within the Bahrain Victorious team. So without question, she's the rookie of the year for me on the women's side.
I guess that brings me to this team concept because it has its detractors. Everyone's like, what is this? What's the Scorpions? What's the thing? What's the point of it? Etc. There's a few, but on the inside, as we all are, we know how important it is. And I guess now we've got Hayden here. I mean, mate, you're part of the Sharks. This is a team that got around each other, and I guess it's something that you don't necessarily have outside of mixed team relay, I suppose. What was your experience of the team's concept, and is there anything that you'd like to change next year?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely I think a thing that should stay. I'm pretty sure the Sharks was trying Z anyway, as we had all the New Zealanders in one team, so it kind of just felt like mixed team relay sort of stuff. But no, it was really cool, to seeing, like, for example, for Beth, she started pretty rocky, and she knew that, and she told that to the team, and then she was pretty much up there just to try and get as many points for the team, whether it was doing well over the overall standings or just like, how much points am I behind Cassandra on the run? Is it possible for me to win it? And all that sort of stuff. So that was really cool. And then just like seeing like Kate Woff kind of slowly progressed throughout the series as well. She was getting better and better every race, which was really cool to see. And same with Nicole. She was a little bit nervous coming into the racing because she's been a little bit injured. And then, just kept getting better and better. And then same with, Taylor. He was he wasn't really on last year as he had a gastro bug most of the season. So for him to be punching for a podium finish, but just kind of slipping it in Neom was incredible. And I think Chase was probably like team captain of the team, because I'd say he'd put the Sharks flag before his patriotic US flag, because that man was like embedded in purple. He just loved it. Like he would just get on the chat and he would just go like, it's our day, it's our team, let's go. It's just like it was so good. So it was just like that team camaraderie that was really nice. And I really enjoyed it, and they kind of kept the spunk up too. So it was really cool to be amongst that kind of team atmosphere. But I guess for my rookie would be Jean as well. Lahia, she was really good. She was consistent and performed well and got some good points for the Rhinos.
Let's talk about the men's, I suppose, and I'll stick with you. I mean, I was going to ask you about whether the team raced with each other, but for each other. But then you were so far ahead of everybody, it's not relevant. So I was going to move on to Matty Hauser, who did it himself. He did it to himself, I guess, in the end, and he had some bad luck too, and fell away. But it was a great head-to-head battle for a lot of time between the two of you in terms of what we were thinking was going to happen. He got a couple of wins too, so I'm sure that you enjoyed racing against the Aussie, even though in the end, when it got to Neom, you didn't really have a lot of work to do in terms of securing the overall, but he took the race win.
Yeah, no, I know that, Matt is an extremely talented short course athlete. Like, I'd say he's actually probably the best. Like, the amount of times he's saved Aussie and put them back in contention of racing. He was kind of like, for me, coming into the whole series, I know he was in form and everything was going really well for him. A great result in the Com Games to then Hamburg. I knew he was going to be extremely strong and probably harder to beat than, say, like Alex, because he just has that extra leg in the swim that Alex and I just don't have. So, if I put 10 seconds into him on the run, he'll probably catch it up in the swim. But then he can also run extremely quick as well. So he was extremely tough to beat. And, the times that we had good battles, it was awesome. Like, I loved getting pushed by Matty. And it was just unfortunate that there was a couple, obviously, incidents that took him out of some good points. And but I just hope for next year that, if Alex comes back into the fold and then Matt, it's going to be some serious competition to get onto the podium. So I'm excited for next year already. And just to see Matt kind of, grow into the sport. He started in Hamilton Island and now he's just like, he's kind of growing with us through Super League. It's really cool to see him kind of doing so well after his, I think it was, probably 4 years ago where he got taken out by the car, and kind of having that really good kind of recovery from that. And then, kind of being back to where he was after winning, under 23 world titles and all that. It's good to see him back at the top.
Well, we can ask Hayden about Matt, but now we can ask everyone else about Hayden. I mean, Mackie, you remember when he was in that sprint finish with Mario Mola back when he was like, we were like, who is this kid? Like, where has this kid come from? And he's just so stoked to outsprint Mario for sixth place it was in the end in Jersey. And that's when I sort of like stood up and paid attention to, and it seems like in a lot of ways, like Matt has been a guy whose career has paralleled Super League's growth, and Hayden's been the same, Chris, and you would have seen that.
Oh, without question. I feel like you've grown up with us, Hayden. I've got a fantastic photo of us from Malta where you're just a young kid. I'm like, wow. And to see your progression has been amazing. But I think you've just seen that evolution of the next generation come through, and Super League is always going to do that. And Hayden was always knocking on the door. Matt Hauser was always there. Alex Yee was always there. And, we sort of, in the day it was Richard Murray leading the charge, right? And now Richard Murray's sort of aging out of that racing. Then Vincent came. He's been injured this year, and there was Henry Schumann. But it's definitely a new wave of talent, and Hayden was leading that. And I think having done the series for so long and understanding the formats and understanding how to pace these races, understanding how to pace a series is pretty important. And I just thought your maturity this year as a racer, Hayden, was next level. It was incredible. Well done. coming up against
it was tough. It was definitely tough at the.
Yeah,
Tell you what, it was tough at the start of at the start of every single round, because you have like the real young guys like Dan and Jamie just absolutely burying themselves, and it's like, man, I'm like a diesel turbo. I need to build into this stuff. Stop going hardcore on the first round.
That's exactly what Mario would have said when you did it to him 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Who is this kid? No, sprinting for this. What is this? I can't be dealing with that. Hey? And there'll be another one. A couple more years, Dan Dixon will be like, oh my God, I'm 24. There's these kids who are 19 who've been in the junior races or the fun run when we came back last time. What about you, Tim? It's been a you know what I've enjoyed so much, and we'll get to Annie where she can talk about Johnny Brownlee for 6 minutes in a minute, but it's nice seeing Australia versus New Zealand. I've enjoyed that specifically well, and it was sad the way things shook out in the men's overall as opposed to the women's, where it was a little bit less incident-packed and we had that battle.
I think you create your own chances and your own luck in triathlon, and like, no, Hayden was hands down the best athlete, and look, I'm Maddie's in the team. I chat to him a fair amount in the season, but when you're not making mistakes, you're bloody hard to beat. And Hayden's just so good. You don't have to be, you've got to be consistently, you don't have to be consistently good. You've got to be good at being consistent. And Hayden, he turns up and he's performing, whether he's slightly under the weather, he's still getting on the podium, There's a big swim thrown at him and he's going, okay, that happened. How am I going to come back from that? And he's working it out as, we're there in transition, and the fluidity and the smoothness of it is just second to none. And so, sure, it was a shame that Maddie, crashed in Malibu, but Hayden didn't crash, and I think, you've got to know where your limit is and you've got to walk it comfortably. If you know where your limit is and you're dancing with it, things are going to happen. And I think the pressure that Hayden made everyone else put under, the cream rose to the top. So that was one of the most dominant. It's the longest series we've had, and it's the most dominant athlete we've seen in Super League male history. Yes, Vince has won 2 for 2, but there are only 2 races. You throw in a third or a fourth, but I just think how Hayden raced and handled himself was just absolutely massive. And with
I wonder if Vince
athletes he had it.
Well, I'm going to send this to Vince, and I'm going to say Tim Don said that Hayden Wilde is the most dominant athlete in Super League history.
Paraphrase it. He basically said it was equivalent to 2 series of racing, so you're the same.
Huh? Well, I'll
say that. Vince messaged me last night, and he used the word thanks, legend. He put in the message to me.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Vince is But Vince, saying that, Vince is under no illusion how the game has moved on. He is. That's why he could have raced in Neon. He was obviously, but he knows what it would have taken to beat those guys, and he decided to wait until this week. He's under no illusion.
We didn't need him.
Here we go. We got the jack in the pocket as well. Oh my God!
Listen to this. Macca just throws these lines out that the Super League, like people who are writing the email, the website stuff, are like, we didn't need him. That's all we need. We're going to put that. It's going to be an article right there. Cam Worth is a piece of shit. Okay, we're going to put Cam Worth as a piece of shit. That's all we need. We don't need any context.
I constantly read that. I'm like, I never said that.
You said something outrageous, and then you wind it back over the course of the next 2 minutes. We don't need to worry about any of that. Annie, your take on the top 3 battle? I mean, obviously it was good to see Johnny launch himself up, just like Sophie did with the last race result, launch himself up onto the podium and control races too, which he did for a period of time there. But it's been quite the battle between the Aussies and the Brits and the Kiwis over the course of the last 8 weeks.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I always love watching Hayden race because I love to watch him on the bike because, he can slightly cock up on the swim and it doesn't matter because he just seems to be totally invincible on the bike. Whatever happens, we've seen it, across Super League, we've seen it across WTS, and that's just great to see, like, how technically strong and just how physically strong you are on the bike and the run as well. And you're so focused, like, outside of the racing, you're such a cool guy. Like, really enjoyed getting to know you. But when you're in it, you're so in it. And you're one of those athletes that stand on the start line and everyone knows that you've got a bloody good shot of winning. And what a great place to be.
And
What?
No, she's got a call coming in. Someone's got a returns they're not happy with. She's back in the call centre.
Sorry, are you?
She's going to say some really good stuff about you, Hayden. She dropped
I
out.
know.
Did it come out? What happened?
I don't know. It says you've gone offline.
She's
No,
texting
I'm
me what she was
here.
going to say, and she thinks she got lucky, Hayden, and you shouldn't have won the series. And the fact is not.
I'm sorry, just wait
If
for one
Johnny
second.
hadn't-
Sorry, are you unhappy with your current phone plan? Oh, sorry. No,
No,
I'm sorry.
no. Listen, if you
How
want me
much
to go
data can
back
you do
to
for
like,
£10 a month?
I can do as much as you like.
She needs a new internet system. I know that.
I don't know. It says you're offline, but we're going to pretend I can still see you, so we're going to keep going, and hopefully you'll still be there. Which leads me to this point, right? The last time we did a short shoot show, Tim Don said some things about Hayden Wilde, and then Hayden Wilde
Here we go.
sent me a text message and said, Tim Don's full of shit. So now you're
Hold
both
on,
here.
Annie needs some help on the call. No, look, listen. I love the.
Well,
All I was saying on the show is that Hayden is not one of the guys, and I was similar when I was at the top of my game, that he's going to go out with the boys and have a massive session. And I'm not saying they do that. And yeah, there was obviously beef between, we saw the beef between Ryan and Hayden, and it's great that they put it under. And all I said is, I saw everyone come back from Five Guys burger place, and then I saw MG get his hands on a load of them, and Hayden wasn't there having beers. So I just said, Hayden wasn't the kind of guy that would go out and have beers. But you know how we were talking, Will, we were talking about those guys that just highlight, Macca doesn't need this. You're turning into one of those, mate. Come on, where's the real journalism?
That's called the media,
Hey,
Tim. Now you're learning. He's one of them.
I'm in it.
Fake news.
You
Fake
me.
news.
Am I
I read it all the time. Fake news.
Can you hear me as well? Am I back on?
Yeah,
Am I
you're-
back on?
you're
Is the cool
here.
lady back on the show? So Tim
Are you
Don
talking
can
to Annie?
recognise it. Because,
Okay, we'll run the show then, Tim.
Is Annie there?
No, it's Annie.
I'm here.
I can see Annie and hear her, but no one else can. Is that what's wrong?
I can see Annie, but I can't hear her.
I can see
can't
her.
see
Annie.
Annie at all.
shame, isn't it?
Well,
I can
well,
see
I
her
can't
voice
see Annie,
thing.
but I can.
Annie, can
same
you
with Tim.
log out?
Same as
Can
Tim,
you
yeah.
can you go away and then come back?
I
Rejoin.
can.
Go
Did
just
she
Okay.
finish the shift
rejoin.
yet?
Rejoin us. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Come on, off you go. You're still there. Off you go. Go away now.
Okay, I'm going.
Shut
Why
the
don't you
screen
lose
and
all
then
that,
come back. Shut the screen and come
You
back.
lose all her stuff. Tim? Oh, Tim. Will? Won't you lose all her? Yes, you will. All her recording from
No, if
prior.
she comes back in, we should continue to have it. Because she just dropped it offline, so I don't know what happened there. Anyway, just as I was starting to wind Hayden and Tim up too, what a sad time. What a sad time for everyone. So Tim's full of shit. I went out for a beer with the boys. What the fuck? Okay, she's back.
Hey, Annie.
Hi.
Hey!
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, what I did want to point out with Tim being able to recognise that Hayden was a bit antisocial is that I can vouch for the fact that Tim was very antisocial when we were racing together and on training camp. So
Maybe
you're
it,
not alone.
maybe it
So was
was.
I.
Maybe it
So
was.
was I, man. I
Hey?
never went out.
You never. Macca never went out.
never went
Never
out.
had a
I've
drink.
never seen.
I've seen Macca run
Right.
over about 10 parked cars. Run
I-
over
I
about
believe
10
it.
parked cars, and he put his foot through a bloody windscreen.
Ryan
That was
Fisher.
hilarious.
Ryan Fisher
That was
came
in the
up to me the other
90s.
day. Oh, I have no doubt. They had cars in the
There's no cameras
90s.
back then. No cameras back then. You would have been banned for years now.
Fish came up to me after Malibu and he's like, oh, so I went out with Macca last night and then the bill came and I was like, I can't afford $7,500 US worth of champagne. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I've won zero prize money this year. I've got no money.
Off to Mexico.
All
No, I
right.
think the Scorpions take that off the prize money. So of his prize money he won, it's like 7.5 goes back to team funds for champagne.
Is that right? That's so good. That's something that's unique to the Scorpions.
All goes in the potty. All goes in the middle.
2023, we move on. We have a new reigning champion that comes in, and of course, too. Sorry, Annie. Yes.
Oh, here we go. Back to Johnny.
We haven't spoken about Johnny.
I know. So
We spoke for you.
Okay, I'm just gonna. I mean, he was just brilliant. Okay, let's move on. Right, ready.
Cool. That's good. 2023 is going to be bigger and better. We're going to have more events. We haven't announced all of them yet. I hope we're going to go back to all the places. I mean, there's nowhere that I think that we shouldn't return to. And then there's the Arena Games, which is coming up. And Hayden, are you going to come to the Arena Games and defend your title of championship winner? Come on, mate.
Well, I'm in Europe, so I'll come to London.
Oh, you're going to race London?
Well,
it's going to be next year early?
You can't. I don't think you can race London.
Oh, why not?
I've got to Switzerland.
Yeah, you've got to go to Switzerland. I think London's the grand final, and you've got to do at least one other to get a start there, I think.
Right.
If anyone knows the rules, it's Tim.
It's Tim.
But there is another one in Europe. There's one outside to Europe, so come to there. That's even closer.
Yeah, and Montreal as well, hey?
Yeah.
So it seems. The full schedule will be released in due course of both the Championship Series and the Arena Games, but safe to say it's going to be our biggest season yet. It's only season 5 next year. I feel like we've been going for years and years and years, but that's what COVID will do to you. So check superleaguetriathlon.com for all of that. Quickly, let's touch on the WTCS race in Bermuda, starting with the women's. It was absolutely the Dame Flora Duffy show. Set up a brilliant face-off with Georgia Taylor-Brown in Abu Dhabi in a few weeks. Macca, I know you watched the whole thing. What did you think of Flora's performance? Doing the job in front of her home fans. Every single one of them was there for her and no one else.
Off the 70.3 World Championships the week prior, I thought she was magnificent. But Maya Kinman was there helping drive everything. I thought the women's race was remarkable. And Flora Duffy, you were never going to beat her ever. When you got the hill named after you, you weren't beating her. She was in the zone, looked magnificent, swim, bike and run. Amazing.
So there's a hill there that's named after her. Is that right?
It's called Corkscrew Hill, and then
it's they should call it the Duffy Hill so that we can say, they're going up the Duff, which means in Australia means getting pregnant.
My God.
I just think, I just think it's an opportunity lost.
It's a solid climb. It's a good climb.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, solid climb.
The most impressive thing is Flora Duffy got the quickest run of the day. She ran quicker than Beth Potter.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is mad.
Yeah, it's like she just became another animal there. It was like it takes something else to outride Taylor Knibb as well currently.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Big time.
Like she did 6 minutes in 70.3, and then Cagliari she rode away from everyone and took 5 other athletes.
When Taylor Knibb passed Lucy Charles Barclay, it looked embarrassing for Lucy Charles how fast she was passed at the start of that 70.3 bike, and she's a machine on the bike. Annie, what did you think of the women's race?
So it was interesting watching Flora go. I mean, she knew what she had to do, and that's so impressive in itself. Just, even if she hadn't felt good, I mean, she'd only raced to 70.3 a week before. She didn't look as smooth on the bike because she looked like she was absolutely attacking the bike. I don't know if anyone else saw that. Normally she's kind of quite, rigid on the bike, but she was literally kind of pumping the bike all the way. And then obviously she was joined by Maya Kingma, and she said in her interview after the race that Maya kind of did help her massively. She didn't want to go it all alone. But as Tim said, having the fastest run of the day on that course, after that bike.
Fastest swim as well.
Run course either. Fastest swim. It's just exceptional. I have to say, I didn't call that one. I really didn't. I mean, I know that you're going to get lifted on home soil with everyone there chanting your name, but I was a bit surprised because it was just incredible how she delivered the performance that she did.
Well, she did it, and now we look forward to Abu Dhabi, where it's basically a showdown between the two of them. Has anyone got any predictions for that? Hayden, who wins the women's overall title? I mean, obviously you're going to win the men's, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But who wins the women's?
It's tough because they're both in team specialized, so it's like I just don't know what to do. They're both my teammates in a way,
God.
so it's hard. But being a flat course, I think being a flat course, I potentially think Flora might have a little bit of an edge. It all depends how the swim goes. I think if they can if Flora can get into that breakaway. If not, I'd say Georgia will really work that pack and get athletes like Taylor Spivey to join. But it could be extremely interesting.
Isn't it? It's down to the run between those two, I reckon.
And whoever can handle the heat here as well. The heat here is, I think a lot of people are going to underestimate it. I've been here for a week and I can comfortably say that it's going to take me probably another couple more weeks to get used to it. It's different, hey? Like it's not like Tokyo. It's just different. It's weird.
And it's an Olympic distance. Well, normally Abu Dhabi is a sprint.
Yeah,
I think the heat is a big factor.
It won't surprise me if someone dies.
Wow. Right, that's the third headline we can take out of this.
I feel sorry for the ladies because I've been training it I've been trying to avoid the time that they're racing, and they're between 1 to 3, and then we're 3 to 5, and literally from 3 to 5 is like the hottest part of the day in the Middle East. It's going to be, and it's very windy time as well, so the wind will be up. It's quite interesting, like when you're riding or running, you've got that headwind. It's like, oh, this actually feels great. It's very pleasant, and you turn around and then you just feel like you're stuck in a sauna because you just got the wind on your back and your heart rate increases, and it's just like it's just kind of like you use the effort to go into the headwind, and then your heart rate still climbs because you've got no wind to cool you down. So it's going to be very interesting.
I've never run fast enough to have wind on my face. It's almost always still when I run. It's always still.
You can walk on your hands.
That's true.
You can walk
not
on
fast enough.
Very well. Yeah, it's very
not fast enough for wind on my face though. Not
Will
that
McCloy,
fast.
CrossFitter.
Yeah. That's
Hayden,
it.
does the race in Abu Dhabi have any significance for the Kiwis in terms of Olympic selection or getting a start in Tokyo? Because I know for some of the other nations, if they do certain things, they're guaranteed starts in races next year and so forth.
Nah. So for us, we're very, in a sense, similar to the UK. We're going to have 2 podiums in a World Series and also podium on the test event to get into to qualify for the Olympics. So I've only done the 50%. So Worlds doesn't matter. If I don't podium in the test event, it's I just have to wait until the team's selected. So yeah, ours is pretty average, but it's the Olympic Games. It's going to be hard to qualify. So it's just one of those things. But I know there's a lot of countries that, like, if you get like a top 5, that's like partially like B criteria or something like that.
I look forward to watching you and Taylor Reid turn on each other after both being part of the Sharks.
A frenzy in the water.
Yeah, where's your teammate now? Just give him one of these ones on the way past. So Vincent Lewis is back.
Chase is going to come in and go, "Hey guys, don't worry, man.
Come on, guys. Sharks.
Guys, relax. Sharks. Teammates, man.
Come on.
Don't worry about your acclimatate to the conditions.
Acclimatate. He actually came out at Cagliari. Chase came out, did this one on his way out.
He did.
He was like, mate,
I told you.
He did it. He did the Sharks thing in the WTCS race. I was like, respect. Huge respect. That guy absolutely loves it. So Vincent Lewis is back. Just 2 years after he won a race. And then first podium in a year as well. He's obviously had a terrible year with injury and all sorts of stuff going on. And then he came back and he did it with aplomb, with a really well executed race. Macca, obviously you've got a lot to do with him. He's part of the Bahrain team. He's part of the Phoenix team. It's good to see him back on top after everything that's happened to him.
Oh, look, I think it's great to see him back on top, but I think the big thing is coming back from an injury. You always second guess it, right? It's always a very, very difficult thing to do. You feel a little twinge in those warm-up runs. And you go, so I think that was a plus for him. But, it was, when Vince is on, he's remarkable. He sets it up with a big swim. He did that again, and his run is good, and he's becoming such an aggressive front racer. I think because of what's happening with the Hayden Wildes and the Fitz and Blumenfelds and that power that is just off the back of that front group, it's forcing these front athletes to have to be a lot more aggressive to hold that power off, because that bike power that comes can also run. So I think we saw that with Vince, and it was just wonderful to see him back up there. Abu Dhabi is going to be a much different game than that. I think there was a lot of talent missing, even though Alex was there. There was a lot of athletes there that were going in a little bit tired, a little bit overdone, and Hayden wasn't there. So I'm looking forward to Abu Dhabi and seeing the big showdown with Hayden, Alex, and Vince back.
Yeah, obviously, as Hayden said at the start, there are a few people that came in a little bit dusty because of all the racing, and Vince obviously didn't have that problem. But Annie, I mean, you're a big Vince fan. You've probably gone off him a bit now that we've all agreed that he's the second most dominant Super League athlete in history after Hayden. But still, very good to see him. I did not say
that. There we go.
Tim just keeps smashing people on this show, doesn't he? Hammering everyone.
You'll be next, Will.
I was first, I think.
But I think I'm with Macca on that, coming back from an injury and second guessing, and it just seems ridiculous because one day he was 28 and then all of a sudden he's 33 and he's kind of one of the old dudes racing, which is crazy. But we all saw the interview afterwards. I mean, that was emotional for Vince. He's not normally that emotional. I think you're right. I think Abu Dhabi will be different, but I also think what we will see was like watching his swim, how incredibly dominant he was in the swim. That that's what's going to happen, isn't it, Hayden? I guess you can't discount there's going to be a fairly substantial sort of break in the swim, and he'll take a few with him. But I think we've also got to mention the two Spaniards' performances, and Antonio Serrat. What a run that was. I mean, it was something else. Vince wasn't the fastest run by far, but it was a different race for him. But what Antonio did from running from the second pack behind with the fastest run of the day was just incredible, actually. And it's funny how the changing of the guards in the Spaniards, there's no Mola anymore, there's no Javier, there's no what's it called? Fernando Larza. There's new
Mola
Spaniards
was there.
there.
Mola was there.
Yeah, he was, but he did it. But he didn't finish, did he?
The commentary would have mentioned him 6 times though. 100%.
No, he didn't finish, unfortunately.
But I think it's going to be interesting watching these Spaniards coming through. But again, they were quite down on the swim, and I think Abu Dhabi will be different.
Yeah, they were 28th and 34th. Oh, 6th and 9th.
Christian 6th and 9th, but Christian ran with Alex Yee, man. Like, you look at the run, they went, like I'm saying.
But Alex didn't have the fastest run either, did he?
I know he didn't have the fastest run, but man, he's done an Ironman 4 weeks ago. He just did the half last weekend. Like, man, does this guy ever fatigue, man? Like, I mean,
he's also carrying 30 extra kilos.
Yeah,
he got the 5th quickest run. Yeah, but that's scientific equipment. That's it. Christian. His extra. It's like he's got a patch here, one here, one under his hair that you can't see. He's got something there.
He doesn't even think. His coach just says, "Run harder," and he just does it. He doesn't know. I don't even think they've got all the technology on it.
And then his post afterwards too. His post was like 6th. Wasn't what I came for. Yeah. Disappointed.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Let everyone else have fun, for God's sake.
He's disappointed.
And you can't say, he had a few beers and did it, because he doesn't know what beer is. Put the post out.
No.
But I know there were tired athletes there, but Hayden, were you surprised that with the firepower, I mean, they looked like they were working that second group. Were you surprised they didn't bridge up? Often it balloons out for 2 minutes, 90 seconds, and then they switch off. But they were just holding. And I thought it's inevitable. They are going to catch. So well done to the lead group. But were you surprised that they didn't get caught?
Yeah, Trevor said it perfectly. He was like, wherever Hayden is, he is cheering on that chase group, that front group to get away from the chasers. But I was very surprised. I think it was the 5th lap when Christian and Gustav really started packing the power down on the flats. But I think there was just the work ethic that the front group had was just seamless. Like, they were taking their turns. There were some relatively strong riders in there. You had Vasco, who had an incredible swim that set him up well in that group and worked well for Vince. And then obviously Vince being a bit of the older boy, I think he would have been talking to all those guys and barking them up to really work hard. And all those guys worked extremely hard. And when they second lap, they put the 40 seconds on, but then it came back down to 32. And then I think the last few laps, that chase group was probably looking around a bit too much. But it was an extremely interesting race. I've never been on the edge of my seat for as long as that. It was kind of, you're like, the chase groups made a move, but then they kind of stopped getting the move, and they went back up to 40 seconds, and it was extremely interesting. But the way also how Vince, how he ran, he was pretty much on level par on the run with the boys until the third lap, and then he probably started fading on the last lap. But I know, Sergio and those boys, and Sarat as well. Sarat's an extremely good runner. He normally burns a lot of biscuits on the bike, but to see him run, really strong, he normally gets to about 6K then fades, but he held it together this time and looked really good out there. But I guess, for what that meant for me it was more so, if Alex won the race, that means I'd have to try and put someone in between us. But now it's just whoever crosses the line wins, which I think makes it a little bit more exciting as well. So I don't have to, try and take someone with me up the road if I had to and try and put someone in between us. It's just whoever crosses the line first is taking home the world title. So I think that makes it an extremely exciting race. And obviously having the Norwegians back, another 2.5 weeks, everyone will be kind of freshening up a little bit more. It's going to be a very dialed race, I think.
How are you feeling about it? Because it's you're 118 points different, which apparently is not that much because you're all on like 4,000 points. It's a crazy point system. I don't understand it at all. But you must be feeling pretty good. Obviously, you're focusing on this one. Alex's route here was different in terms of what he decided to do in terms of his races, but you must feel good about being able to go and do the job at Super League and give yourself a nice long lead up to this one. You must have felt like you planned it well and will arrive there on the day with what you need to do the job if you're going to do it.
Yeah, I think, I've had the best preparation I can possibly have leading into this race. And if the next few weeks go really well, I can confidently say that I'll be in good shape. But, racing's a whole different story. I haven't raced Olympic distance since Yokohama, which is also a little bit of a unknown. But I know I raced well in Yokohama, so hopefully I can bring that form over. But it's it's going to be extremely different to obviously Super League racing. So I just have to kind of mentally kind of think of that. And yeah, it's just nice to know as an athlete that if the whole plan kind of went ahead leading into the race, there's going to be no excuses. You just hopefully you just don't cock it up on the day and try and bring it home. But yeah, if it's not Alex and I who's got to be out the front, you've got Leo extremely close by. He can easily take the win as well. And if us three don't make the group and we have shocking days, Yella could swoop and take the win as well. So there's so many variables and so many people that can still win. So the result didn't matter too much in Bermuda. It was always going to be whoever races better in Bermuda and Abu Dhabi is going to win the world title. So it's going to be a very interesting race, and it's going to be probably one of the most exciting ones because there's so many races inside the race. It's going to be cool.
So does everyone else agree that Alex G will probably win?
I can't see Alex losing.
No, can't see Alex winning.
I think Alex will be. I think Alex will be scratching his head a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean,
yep.
Yeah, he didn't win, but when a group goes up the road, you then want to get the fastest run. And he didn't get the quickest run, and he wasn't in the kind of level we're talking at. He wasn't that close. I mean, it was 16, 17 seconds. That's daylight. He didn't transition. He fumbled. He was one of the last in and last out.
Happened to him in Cagliari.
I just hope he doesn't go and change everything. Knee-jerk reaction from that, and it is the showdown that we want.
Yeah, he was rusty more than changing anything. I think he just did those little things wrong. He was clumsy and positioned wrong, and yeah, as you said, that transition off the bike was horrific. It was. Yeah. Anyway, I've got you.
He was positioned.
World title. You're my world champion, Hayden. This year.
He was extremely well positioned throughout the whole bike. But then I think there was probably a bit of congestion leading up the last time up Corkscrew Hill. And I think Christian looked back and realised that Alex wasn't on his wheel at that point. He was kind of just further out the back. And then Gustav and Christian just floored it, and then it just pretty much strung. And then, Alex couldn't do much to get into a good position to transition, I think. And obviously being seeded number 2 in that race, his rack is all the way on the other side. So he had to zigzag through people. And that's also, you know, you're trying to get through as fast as possible, and you're a bit flustered as well. So that's probably a potential catalyst of not having the best T2. Like he's normally one of the quickest in T2 easily. So just those little things, and I think, you know, everyone from Super League, as Tim said, you know, like we've just been practicing transitions for the last 8 weeks. So I think a lot of the Super League athletes were out super quick, and they weren't too flustered to get out there and get it.
We had 3 races worth of transitions in Neom alone, so it's those little 1%ers that make a big difference. I think, you know what, we've cracked past the hour mark, which is new territory for us, so we should probably wrap it up. Annie left us and came back, so she's only done 45 minutes, so she'll get 3/4 pay for this one. Thanks so much for joining us anyway. And Falcon, thanks to you as well. Are you there by yourself, mate? Are you bachelorising for the next 2.5 weeks, or are you a better half there too?
Yeah, I'm bachelorising. She's doing Clash Daytona. She's getting on the TT bike, and she's got to go back home. She's got to go back home studying as well. So she couldn't come because she had exams.
I would love to be
just
in
here,
by myself.
But I have friends here. I've got some. It's actually really funny. I like doing some things with the some of the Abu Dhabi Tri Club and some of their national like athletes, and they're just like, they're absolutely frothing just to come for a training session. I got them in the pool, and I was like, "Oh, do you guys want to like do some pacing for me?" And like, you know, they're not the best swimmers, but they chucked their fins on, they chucked their pedals on, and they were just absolutely killing themselves to try and pace me. I was like, "This is great, loving it."
They're brave. They are brave.
How was the 10K? How was the 10K yesterday?
Oh, it was good fun, eh? I had like an 8K tempo, so I'm doing some collaborations with the kind of like Abu Dhabi Sports Council, so they got me the entry, and it was the reason why I really wanted to do it was because it was on the race course, so it gave me a good opportunity to actually get over the race course and have a look at what it looks like. So that was really the only reason why. But I just had a run session, 8K tempo, and then just jogged in. So it was good fun, but yeah, it's currently really humid here, so that's also another factor. I was sweating bullets, so. Times.
No stone unturned for the Falcon going into Abu Dhabi. We'll do another show before that, or maybe after that. I don't know.
You love that quote, don't you?
No stone unturned. Do I say that a lot?
Yeah.
Is that something I say a lot? You know, people kept telling me. I don't know. I don't know what I say. I'm not transcribing myself. I just let it flow. Jeez. All right. Looking forward to Alex Yee winning the world title in 2.5 weeks' time, and Hayden Wilde falling to a disappointing 4th. That wraps us up on the Chute Show. Tim Don, thank you very much. Annie Emerson, thank you very much. Macca, thank you very much for joining us once again. And Hayden Wilde, you were here too. Thanks, mate. No, I really appreciate you taking the time in the middle of a training day like they all are, and congratulations once again on what was an incredible season for you. We all really appreciated watching you over the last 8 weeks or so. Go about it and do the job. So well done.
Cheers, team.
All right, that wraps us up. All the information for what's coming up and plenty of stuff in the wrap-up as well still to be released on superleaguetriathlon.com. Don't miss it. We'll be back.